Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's Friday, and it's a special episode of the Sick of This show. Normally, we don't do Friday episodes, um, but it worked out this way, and I wanted to bring on a new friend and someone who I got to interview with last week with Lisa and Rick Herbst, or Herbst. I don't want to say it wrong.
I think it's
Um,
Herbst. He says it that
Herbst.
way. So, yep.
Okay. And so, Lisa, welcome to the show. It is really good to have you on. I'd love for you to sort of introduce yourself to the audience. Then I really just want to ask about you, some of the things you're into. I know we talked last week about music, um, and um, some of our non-work related connections, like actual hobbies.
Hmm.
And I'd love to maybe talk a little bit about things that aren't political for a couple minutes here and there and take a break for a second. So, welcome and good afternoon. And do you mind introducing yourself for us?
Of course. Thank you so much, Nick, for having me. I am so excited because I've been following you since you've been on Substack. My name is Lisa, everybody that doesn't know me. And I started on Substack in the summer around the time that you came on and started this network. And that has been my whole goal to connect with people, really, is my main focus. Uh, in terms of politics, I was never really political. It was always in the periphery for me. And it's interesting that you said we will have the music conversation. But to me, those intersect, music and politics, and I'll explain why. But we could also have trips down memory lane because it sounds like we bonded a little bit in our interview with Rick. It was awesome. I was like, oh my God, he's a metalhead like me. So, yeah, so that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be fun. But in terms of what I'm doing here, I started like doing little videos here and there on YouTube and TikTok, and but Substack is where I've been spending a lot of my time recently, and I feel like I want to transfer everything over here and still do the other platforms because those are important too. But I like the integration of the platform where you could do the long form writing. You could even do like notes that kind of makes me think of Twitter, and then you have the
Mm-hmm.
broadcast like this. You could even do your videos and make a post. I mean, it's like everything all in one. And I have been really enjoying that aspect and finding new people through these lives, like as you're going
Yeah.
in, because that is my whole goal, which I'm hoping I've had this vision of us being independent content creators connecting with independent media, like the bigger people, like say, like the people I follow, Midas Touch, David Pakman,
Mhm.
Adam Mockler, all these people.
Yeah.
They have really big platforms. But I feel like the more that we can connect, like we need to make an army, like how the right wing has been doing for decades, that we don't have that ecosystem. So I'm hoping that this will be the springboard for that. And we're like in the very beginning stages. Now, in terms of long form writing, I haven't been now this weekend in particular. I'm like, okay, I have to buckle down and I have to because I've been kind of scattered between work, because I have a full-time job and, responsibilities and things. These lives are awesome because they're scheduled and I come on here doing the thing, it's great. And Rick and I have one every day at 6:30 and on Fridays, no, it's Saturdays, we do in the afternoon.
Yeah.
This evening, though, Rick and I won't be. I'll be solo, and when I do the solo lives, I call them my mini lives because they're a little shorter. And so I'll do one. I'll send the invites pretty soon for that. But sometimes life happens. Things come up, and we have to kind of be adaptable. But in terms of long form writing, this afternoon I want to write about my in terms of music. My political awareness began when I was a teenager. Even though I didn't completely delve into politics at that time, it was
Mhm.
introduced to me through metal and punk music.
That makes sense.
And yes, and I remember not because we talked about when you were on the show with Rick and we talked about the erosion in civics, of civics knowledge. And when I grew up, I was in high school in the 90s. So I'm Gen X. I was born in 1975, and I'm like one of the younger Xers. I call myself. Um, so at that point, the punk scene had already, been initiated like in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. It was still there, but it was different. Then Green Day came out. It was like started becoming
Yeah.
like a different incarnation. But the Sex Pistols and from the 70s, like that type of working class ethos came from then. And then the hardcore movement, like Minor Threat, like bands like that. I love Minor Threat. Um, Henry Rollins, even, that was a response to the Reagan era. That's why where the hardcore music came from. So I, as a teenager, for whatever reason, those sensibilities, I completely like it. It resonated with me so much. And
Hmm.
I was 15, 16 years old. I mean, I was a child. There was something in it, even though I didn't know what I know now, that was my truth. Like from like I really connected with it. One band in particular was Bad Religion. I don't know if you know them.
I know Bad Religion. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a lyrics person. That's another thing too, is because now I'm in bands. I've done progressive metal. I'm in a cover metal band now, and I also do music with a friend of mine that was in my first band with me, but we're still friends, and we do like hired gigs and stuff. And that's all fun.
Hmm.
But in terms of music, I love the music itself, like the sound. And in the 90s, we had a lot of angst. And there was a reason
Yeah.
for that, because that was the breakdown of our society. That was, post Reagan. And that was, even though we couldn't maybe articulate it, we knew something was wrong as kids, and just in general, just society in general. So I feel like that's where the cynicism of Gen X comes from, the apathy and the angst, because it was kind of like everything's falling apart and nobody's doing anything, and the capitalism is out of control, just all these things happening at once. So I have always been a lyrics person, even though I was into the music. But Greg Graffin, I feel like, and he's the leader of, well, not the leader, but the lead singer of Bad Religion. And
Hmm.
I feel he is one of the best lyricists in punk in my opinion anyway. And I attribute that to his education. I mean, he's a great writer,
Yeah.
and he is, that whole band is very like learned. I mean, they all have degrees. That was like a major thing to them, it seems like, in their journey was academic. So
Hmm.
the whole band have degrees, but Greg Graffin in particular, I is paleontologist, geologist actually, and he has a PhD in zoology from Cornell, and then he also is a professor, and I think he still is a professor, and he's still the lead singer of this punk rock band. So that was my introduction. But what really did this to me, in terms of really finding out politics and really getting into, like Rick likes to say, our faces pressed up against the glass of the news every single day, like how we are now, that happened to me in 2020. It wasn't even necessarily 2016. It was still in the periphery, like when Trump came in. I mean, I knew he was a disaster, but it wasn't until 2020 and the pandemic, when we were home and for months. And then I was really I mean, everything was falling apart, everything was chaotic. And that's when I really started paying attention. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, hell no. And since then, I've been educating myself civically, because at the time before that, I'm one of those people that I say was civically ignorant, really. Yeah, I knew some things, but I wasn't as well versed. Like Rick, I love partnering with Rick because he has so much knowledge, and that's what our show is. I love picking his brain on these things, and I love for him to explain that. So our point of our show, I feel like, is to share that information with our audience, and to be able to connect with other people that may not know that knowledge because of the erosion in civics. And then we talk about current events too. So
Yeah.
of course, I mean, how could you not these
Yes.
days?
Yeah. I mean, everything these days basically
Oh,
ties into some sort of civic engagement being necessary. Um,
exactly. And then one thing that
and
I will say, just really quickly, because it just came about, and I saw, because another thing that I do, And a lot of people think I'm crazy for doing it, but I am plugged into right-wing publications so I can see what articles these people get and what it is that they're getting in their echo chamber. And a lot of it, of course, over the years, it's all BS and it's all propaganda and everything. But some of these, the way they frame things and the way they got to these people that were never political. And that's one of the things that Trump did is he was able to reach people through these like emotional, manipulation tactics and stuff like that. So of course their media reflects that. And the latest one that I just looked at before we came on here was um, they are making fun of, apparently there's a meme going around saying grandpa was Antifa, and they're like, oh yeah, right, they're like making light of this whole thing about, because of course their whole thing is that they're not fascist, although we all know they are, and they all have
Hmm.
these fascistic we all know.
Yeah,
And I was like, well, my
they're not
grandpa
hiding
was,
it.
yes, I'm like, my grandpa was Antifa. Actually, both of my grandpas were Antifa.
Yeah, mine
And
too.
yeah, and one of them was in fascist Italy, which I found out because my family, I'm first generation here, born here. Some of my cousins too, but I still have family in Italy, Sicily, Switzerland. So they stayed there, but my parents are from Sicily, and my grandparents, all these people. Now, my grandfather, though, that was in America, he actually wasn't my grandfather through blood. This is on my dad's side, so my grandmother's husband. She married him when she came to America. So my step grandfather emigrated to Chicago in the
Hmm.
1920s. So by the time World War II came around, he was older than, to be drafted. So he enlisted, and he was a combat medic under Patton. And I remember those stories. I wish that he was still alive now, because I know some of the things might have been kind of censored, even though Italians don't really censor things for the children. But I'm sure there were things that were more severe that I probably would have found out later. But yeah, he was Antifa. Like, are you kidding me? And then my blood related grandfather, which I just found this out not that long ago. Apparently, because my two aunts that are older remember they were little girls when Mussolini was in power. And they remember as little kids the Nazis, like, traipsing through there and all that. But apparently, my grandfather never, he was anti-fascist, and even though he was under that regime, they were supposed to, my father was just telling me this, they were supposed to register with the fascist party, and my grandfather never did it. And I don't think it was necessarily a requirement, but I don't know what would have happened if people found out. You know what I mean? Like that
Probably
he
not a
did it.
good thing.
Exactly. So
Probably
I
not.
did not know that about him, because I was just thinking, well, maybe they were living in that regime, because what else can you do? They would kill you. And then it was like, oh, no, 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 your grandfather was very anti, like Mussolini. But I mean, they were living there, they had to go through the motions. But I was like, wow, I can't even imagine. So I know everything about Mussolini upside down, backwards and front, just from over the years, from hearing from,
Yeah.
the actual accounts of my grandmother, my aunts. And my dad was born in 1947, but he knows the history. So he's a baby boomer, so he was born after the war. But still, so all this stuff, and even my father himself telling me that, well, first of all, he came here in 1968, and we've had discussions about this, where we talk about politics and, overseas, geopolitical, and here. And he said to us once, and it really hit me, and I'm like, you're absolutely right. He was like, you are young, you have no idea what this country was before Reagan. All you know is Reagan. And
Yeah.
I was like, that's a really good point, because I don't know what that feeling was, because he came here in 1968. So up until last year, I think, I was telling my family about my fears, like, God forbid, if he ever gets in again, like, he's gonna, because we already knew the plans, Project 2025, all this stuff. My dad was like, never is gonna. He has an accent too, which it makes things even funnier. But he was like, never's gonna happen in this country. It's never gonna happen like what happened in Italy. Now he's not saying that anymore. And now,
Yeah.
at the past year, he's been like, no, 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 no. This is totally Mussolini. This is totally fascistic. Completely, yeah. So that is why it's so alarming to me how many people still aren't getting it. And it's like we've also had Shane on our show. It's like when are
Mhm.
people, the mass majority of people, going to get it finally? And unfortunately, it seems like something has to really touch them or a loved one before their eyes are open. And that's another reason why I think what we're doing here is very important.
Yeah, yeah, because we're also exposing how it is actually already impacting people.
Yes.
Um, so you said a lot of really good things in there, and it's one of my one of my theories, and I want to ask your opinion on this. Is that we're a generation too far removed from World War II for people to truly understand Nazism and the dangers of fascism in the US because nobody alive, other than those who are rather old, experienced the impacts of the German American Bund and its prevalence, and how it worked in the US. Um, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think
Well,
that that fits in? Because it sounds like it does in the way that you were raised, as you were taught someone who knew directly and who had firsthand experience. Nobody's getting firsthand experience anymore. It's now second or
exactly.
third.
Exactly. And I remember my grandfather, speaking of the Bund, like I remember I didn't know that particular thing, the history, like the Madison Square Garden rally. I didn't find that out until Rachel Maddow, like did, what was
Mhm.
that, a year ago, year and a half ago, something
Yeah,
like that.
just a little
And where
longer.
she did that whole special about it. And I was like, oh my goodness. But I remember because again, I was a child. My grandfather passed, my step grandfather that was in the US Army. He he passed away when I was 14, but I heard things and I remember certain things. Like, first of all, in terms of being civically minded, my grandfather voted for at every single election, even if it was the local stuff. He was always going, it was at our grammar school, actually, is where it was set up like for voting. And no matter what, it could be hailing, he was going, so he, well, was always very much like really into voting. And now I understand why, because my grandfather was Carter, voted for Carter instead of Reagan. Hated Reagan. And I remember when this was, I'm sorry, I'm going to digress for a second, but this is kind of funny.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
used to have,
I'm gonna
we,
pause my video for just 1 second,
okay,
interrupt. I'll
please.
be right
Yes.
back. Take over monologue. I'm
Okay.
just my wife just walked
Okay.
in the door for something, so I'll be
No
right
problem. Okay, guys. So this is what would happen. We had, for those of you that remember, the TV that my grandfather had at the time was not remote control. You had to actually change the channel on the TV with a dial. So, and the same thing with the on and off switch. And whenever Reagan ended up coming for a presidential address or like breaking news, or like they would cut transmission to whatever it was that we were watching, he would come up, and I swear to God, it wouldn't like not even 2 seconds would elapse, and he would, and again, he had an accent, and he would get up and would be like, "Son of a bitch," and he would like slam it shut and like forcefully like shut the TV off. He hated Reagan, and one other really funny thing about Jimmy Carter, which is my grandmother, who's from Italy, used to call him Pinuzzo because of the peanut farm. And Pinuzzo actually is a nickname for Joseph, but that's what she called him because of the peanut farm. So now to this day, everybody calls Jimmy Carter Pinuzzo in my family. They're like, that's when Pinuzzo was president. Yeah. but
back. Hey, at
but
least
anyway, yeah. So, but in terms of that, like he was super civically minded, so he was very into, like always voting, always knowing what's going on. But one thing that I remember he used to tell me, which never registered until now, don't ever let anyone know who you voted for. And I was like, and I remember thinking at the time, because this was in the 80s, I was like, why? Everybody always talks about who they're voting for. Now I get it. Because they were most likely, my grandfather was living in a climate like this one that we are in now. So
yeah,
people were very, very hostile toward each other because there was this fascistic, well, they were trying to take hold in the US. So you couldn't really like be very vocal about your political allegiances once you started to get closer to World War II.
yeah,
Like that's something that I never really put together. Like he never explained it to me in that way, but that has to be why,
yeah.
you know?
That I mean, so here's one of my things is I think it's actually healthy that we do now talk about who people voted for, but I
Yes.
think we have the unhealthy part of it is that we have been convinced that your party ideology has to be your personal ideology, and you have to like conform with a party. And it's not about being an American, it's about being a Republican
Hmm.
or a Democrat or an independent or somewhere kind of on one of those groupings. But none of them are "we're America first." Like their America first slogan really means America last. But like
Yes.
I'm talking about, like, I don't care about the Democratic Party. Like, in to be totally honest, I'd rather see the Democratic Party break apart and fail and break into smaller parties that have a parliamentary agreement to maybe form a government with a president that is democratic in nature, um, and have the Republican Party go the way of the Whigs. Like,
Mm.
that's like, we don't need a Republican Party. They suck. They're a
Yeah.
fascist party. They are the worst.
Yeah.
Um,
And they've been hijacked now to be even worse
yeah,
than they
like,
were before.
yeah, because they allowed it to. They let
Hmm.
themselves
That's
be.
right.
Um, it's like, and we'll be honest with history. It's like the Democratic Party used to be the slave owning party in the South and the
Yeah.
ones that wanted to own slaves and hold them. The Republican Party under Lincoln freed
Yes.
the slaves. The Republican Party now would have been the Democratic Party then. They would
Right.
have owned the slaves and fought for them. They're the ones who fly the rebel flag. They fly the Virginia battle flag and call it the Confederate flag.
Mm.
It's really the Virginia battle flag, but
Mm.
whatever, whatever.
And
Stupid
that makes me think
Confederates.
of the Dixiecrats. A lot
Uh,
of the switch with Strom Thurmond and all that stuff with
yep,
civil rights. Oh yeah,
yep,
oh yeah. I'm fascinated by that and obsessed with that time period because that
yeah.
was where, yeah, the switch.
And we're sort of living in a moment right now too where the Democratic umbrella party, let's say, could embrace both the ideas of conservatism and patriotism, but they don't. Like, they choose not to. Um, because, like, I'll ask you this question, because I play around with this as a thought: is what are your thoughts on you being called a conservative nowadays? Because you want to, everything I know about you so far and every discussion that we've, in the two discussions now that we've had so far, and we're going to get back to music, don't worry, I haven't gotten off that topic, um, is you want to conserve the Constitution. You want to conserve a democratic republic that allows us to vote for people that can represent us and provide a government that works and has services. Would you also now consider yourself a conservative because you want to conserve at least the basics of our institutions and the principles of our government? Or would you want to reject that word and stay as just a
Hmm.
progressive? Or do you think it's appropriate to take over both?
That is so interesting. I never thought of it that way, but I could totally see your point because I agree with that uh, assertion about conserving like the basic framework, the fundamentals of our country. And of course, we all agree that the Constitution, like with these right wing, what do they call them? The absolutionists, like with the, so we
Oh,
all
the
know the Constitution.
accelerationists and the
Yes,
black pillars and all of that stuff.
yes, and we know the Constitution is a living document. It is meant to be amended. I mean, they did it right
Oh,
away.
you
Like
mean
when they
the
were,
originalists,
yes, the
the
originalists. That's
constitutional
it.
originalists, those people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Mhm.
come on. So because of course it's always about moving the goalposts for them. They will do anything and say anything on the right. It seems like this is what they've become. But in terms of that, yeah, no, I never thought of it that way as being a conservative. So, I mean, I think we can embrace both concepts and still be progressive. I think the
Because they're not
overarching,
opposites.
right, because it's like under progressivism, though, I would see it like the way that we're thinking of it, the way that
Yeah.
we're approaching it. Yes.
Yeah, because the root word is conserve, or
Yes.
conservative, which
Hmm.
comes from conservation or conserve. which means to uphold and defend something and support. It's literally in the Constitution, is to support and defend the Constitution is to be a conservative.
Right.
Like that is to conserve a system. To be progressive is to make a more perfect union. It's written into our documents for us to be both. Like we can have, because they're not polar opposite ideals. I think we've been convinced that conservatism means traditionalism or
Yes.
regressivism
That's
more
right.
specifically because it's regressive what they're doing. The opposite of progressivism is regressivism,
Hmm.
not conservatism. So, what do you say? What would you think about the assertion of trying to just relabel them as regressives? I
I
mean,
think
because
it's
that's what they
brilliant.
are, in my idea.
That is what they are. Absolutely, especially what they're doing at this very moment, like the ideas that they're pushing. You know, like the civil rights and women's rights, just everything. We all know like what their plans are. And they say it out loud and I agree with it. That is regressive.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and maybe we should. I really think we need to just give up on telling the Democratic Party to do anything because the Democratic Party is only going to do things when we start demanding that they do things by actually going out there and doing the things ourselves and then saying, hey, if you don't do them, we will actively vote you out. So if you live in a Democratic state and
Mhm.
you want to register to run for office and you think you'd be a better candidate than who's sitting in office right now, go fucking register. Go register to
Right.
run. If you are eligible to run and you want to, go run. Like
Yeah, you
it's
always
important.
talk about run for something, and I did look
Run
that
for
up. Now,
something dot run for
dot
something
org,
dot net, I think.
not dot
Hold
net.
on. Run for
Now,
something dot net. Yeah.
okay.
I'll put it
So
up on
one
the
of
screen as a QR code too for everybody.
Cool. Yeah. So I looked into that. And what's really interesting about this, and like I said before, I was never into politics. I would have never dreamed that I would be qualified to run for anything, and especially in the United States Congress, it makes sense that a lot of them are lawyers, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that's the legislative branch. But now, after the likes of like Marjorie Taylor Greene and like these people going in there, you're like, I could go there tomorrow. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that's
Like
what
I'm
I
more
feel like.
qualified than
Yes.
half the people there. And I mean, I have two college degrees. I
Right.
feel like I'd be qualified to go, but I'm not running for Congress.
Right.
One, I'm just putting that out there on this platform. I am not running for Congress using this position or this platform to springboard myself because
Same. Yeah.
I'm not.
Hmm.
I'm building a media center for people because that's what I'm good at. I'm good at connecting people. I've
Yeah.
found that I really enjoy and good at connecting people, and it's fun to do, and I get to do it a lot.
Yeah. That's
Um,
what I love about your network because it is a network.
yes,
It's like the
Banner and
Midas Touch
Backbone is a
network.
network.
Hmm.
Banner and Backbone Media, and it is a media network that we're putting together. We have a couple shows, permanent shows on the network already. We do a Palin Talk, which is Shane Urich and I every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And Wednesdays, we try and pretty much do every Wednesday. Ellie Leonard and I do a show
Yes, I
called
love that
Powerful
one too.
Voices,
Hmm.
which uplifts powerful voices of people who are either survivors of abuse of some sort or survivors in general. And we want to highlight people and their experiences and show the truth. And right now, the heaviest focus is on the Epstein and files and the sex trafficking and the disgusting pedophilia and all of that has expanded really, really rapidly. We've had some great folks on, like Zev Shalev has come on twice with us to discuss. So that's growing. And then we do an anti-fascist book club every Friday. And today we had Tara Devlin and Chris Goldsmith, who started the book club and helped found all of that with Veterans Fighting Fascism. That's one of his two nonprofits, and Task Force Butler. And yeah, we're using that model. And I want to make a place where people can feel like your show, what you and Rick do, is an amazing example of something that in the long run, I think would make a great show on a network just like Banner and Backbone. because you guys have a focus on civic understanding and you talk about real issues, but you also connect with the audience and it's real and it's lived and it's not put behind like blinders of a corporate discussion and it's more local. Um,
Yeah.
what do you think about that? Like, for one of the things here, I'll frame it in a better question. One of the things I've noticed is we have a new umbrella forming of media networks. We have a national to international network, which is Midas Touch. It's a big
Yes.
umbrella over a lot of progressive. That includes next to it David Pakman,
Hmm.
Brian Tyler Cohen, folks like that.
Hmm.
Um, Underneath of that, you have like the Find Out podcast, you who is working on some really cool stuff that I'm so excited to hear about in the near future, and they're growing rapidly. You have Valor Media Network, you have Lincoln Square,
Yes,
um,
I love those two.
those style groups, and then underneath of them are us. We're the local folks. We're the local reporters. What do you think of that? Like us building more of a local, almost replacement for an NPR or PBS style, because those are even sort of going the way of the dinosaur with platforming folks like Caroline Levitt. Um,
I think that is brilliant because that is absolutely true. And this is part of the reason, like the way that you framed it with Midas Touch, because I thought of them that way too, as this large umbrella network. And then all of the other ones that are adjacent to them that are just as, they're big platforms as well. But the
mhm.
way that you just laid out the structure, I agree with that completely. And the more local feel and because we'll also be talking about things that are happening nationally, even internationally, but
Yeah,
local to me also makes me think more accessible and more um, authentic. Not, I don't want to say that they're inauthentic, but they have more of that like media structure, like a produced type of a structure. And we have kind of like we're sitting around like having, coffee, like, type of a thing where we're like inviting them into our sphere and they are inviting us into theirs and we could all speak with each other. Sometimes these really large networks can't really speak to their audience the way that
yeah,
we can,
yeah,
which
yeah.
I
I
think
think
is
that
extremely important.
no, I think that's a great point, especially at the end, is how we speak with the audience. Still, like I get it that some of the places as you get bigger, it's harder to stay
Hmm.
connected with your audience, but we're not that point yet,
Right.
and everyone here with us right now are the core audience. Like you are the core audience that come back every single show. Basically, I see names here pretty much every single time I'm on live. I see an incredible group of people that's growing and growing, and it really sometimes it baffles my mind that people want to listen to me talk, and come back and want to hear more of me each time. But it's
I
so
think you're
fun.
brilliant. I think you're
Thank
a wonderful orator, and I think that like you put together great shows. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to
No,
say,
no,
I mean,
please.
you're very engaging. So I watch all of your shows. See, that's another thing too is between us, and I know that the big networks do that too. They watch each other's shows. We watch each other's shows, which I think is wonderful because then
Yeah,
we could continue the conversation onto our shows, give us ideas about something else that we want to maybe bring up based on what we just heard. So that is wonderful having that type of ecosystem, and that's my whole like dream. That has been like my whole reason for even being on here.
so, okay, I want to ask you. This is a law I picked up. So we're going to stay in the same topics, but
Hmm.
shifting a little bit back to maybe some music
Yeah.
and computer sciencey stuff and things that connect us in different ways. So I've done both. I've done music and I've done computer science. So I have a degree in music theory and composition, and I have a degree in computer science. And I've never really used my music degree outside of school, and a couple small like summer programs and stuff that I had
Mm.
to get into and audition for, which were really cool. It's actually the intro music is a flute piece that I wrote while I was in Paris one summer in college, and it's a flute trio that I had three friends.
You play the
At the
flute?
time. No, 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 no. I'm
Oh,
a composer, so I
okay.
actually sing, and
Oh
I
yeah, that's right.
dabble
You're a
on the
vocalist like me.
piano.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm a vocalist. I'm a baritone to a bass,
Ooh,
depending.
cool.
Um, and I I'm a huge fan of like my favorite band is Coheed and Cambria right now. They have been for a long time.
Hmm.
I saw them when I was younger, and I don't remember the year. I went to it was a Warp Tour in Montreal.
Oh my God, the
Um,
Warped Tour.
was that was my first big concert series. Was I went to the Warp Tour and I saw Coheed and Cambria. I'll write it in. See,
Yes, and please send me the link because I want to know because I'm not familiar with them. What
oh,
kind of a
they are
band are they?
so good. They're progressive rock.
Mm.
Um, you will absolutely love them. They um, my favorite song of theirs. It's like 8.5 minutes long. Um, it's uh, it's a mini rock opera style song,
Oh,
um,
cool.
and it's the whole album itself is like a post apocalyptic
Mm.
um, world, and the song is sort of they're going waiting for the hero to show up,
Mm.
and like that hero is willing. It's very interesting because the way it parallels to like end of world US stuff that's going on right now where they want to
Mm.
like after there's a it opens with like there's a hole in the sky from our forefathers last war, and we're the survivors and we're just
Oh.
fighting each other. Um,
See, I like stuff like that. I
and so
do.
it's got like that Rush vibe. Yeah,
Ooh.
Morgan, I'm gonna call you out because you laughed about liking Rush earlier in the conversation, and Rush was one of my favorite bands when I was in high school. But yeah, I got to see Coheed and Cambria, Flogging Molly, Red Jumpsuit Apparatus,
Yeah,
bands like that.
yeah.
I actually got to see Flogging Molly again not too long ago. So question on music for you.
Yes.
There we have some really good Irish rock bands that are out. Two very distinct Irish rock bands that are in the US right now. Ooh,
Oh, oh, because
not
you
what
did
I
the
was
thing.
expecting.
Yeah.
Peace sign. Um, is we have Flogging Molly
Yes.
and Dropkick Murphys.
Dropkick Murphys. Yes.
What do you think about Dropkick Murphy? Because they came out not too long ago with veterans. I think it was
Yeah.
no Unite for Veterans, Unite for America rally.
Yes.
They put out some new songs and performed live.
Hmm.
What do you think about that and the use of music for um, resistance?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. I've been waiting for it. And I'm hoping that more of a movement will come out like from it. It's interesting. I don't know, times are different now. And when I was younger, I remember as a teenager, different genres were very vocal about, like their political ideology, or most of it was about like civil rights. Like, for instance, like, are you
Mhm.
familiar with NWA, Ice Cube?
Yeah,
They were, yeah, Easy E was in there. So they were the first, this was around the Rodney King times, actually. A little bit
yeah.
before that, they were talking about police brutality, even before Rodney King like happened, because they were like, it was like the early 90s when they came out. And I remember listening to them, even though I was a metalhead, a lot of metalheads were into that rap, like that kind of a
Hmm.
genre. So I was a big fan of theirs. And so they were speaking. A lot of people, like a lot of the things that are happening now, it's so interesting to me, are echoes of what happened then. But Gen X was not listened to by the silent generation or the boomers at all. Like,
No.
my sister and I talk about this all the time, and she's like, and it wasn't for lack of trying, like Rage Against the Machine, like our
Hmm.
music was very, me personally, because I grew up then. I don't get offended really, and a lot of the Gen X music was meant to offend. Like that's
Yeah.
what it was for, and it was probably in reaction to not being listened to by those older generations. And to me, whenever something is offensive, not gratuitous, it has to have a point and it has to be artistic. Like there's a difference. So to me, those kind of bands had that. like Rage Against the Machine, like, like
Hmm.
Minor Threat, like, and so I wish we had something like that now, but it's like we don't have that music scene anymore. And I don't know, I think a lot of things have to do with it, like the homogenizing of music that has happened did because of the social media, because of the
Yeah,
algorithms. Like it's not like how it used to be before, how we used to discover music. Now everybody has this algorithm that's catered to them, and where
yeah,
you end up being in this like almost like an isolationist in even in music. It's just a sad state of affairs. I find it, just because of how I grew up and how I discovered music and the artists that we had. Okay, like for instance, Sinead O'Connor, like when she ripped up the
mhm,
picture of the Pope, that's famous, right, at SNL. Those are the artists that I remember, and they were controversial, and they did not care. They did not care. And that people talk about it to this day.
yeah,
That whole situation that happened. Prince is another one. I mean, he's another one that was very subversive. Madonna was even subversive. People don't really remember, but growing up, I mean, sexually, also a lot of gay rights stuff was happening. That
mhm,
all of that stuff happened throughout me growing up, and it was very hostile.
yeah,
Um, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I'm hoping, I don't know, but I wish that there were more like Dropkick Murphy, because they're really out there doing that kind of vibe, like really.
yeah,
And I keep asking myself, like, where is Rage Against the Machine? Where are you guys? We need you right now. Like, where
yeah.
have you
Like
been?
what I we see Green Day's out there. Green Day's
Green
hanging out.
Day. Yes, they
They're
are.
another one that's always been super political, fun
Always.
rock.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like, where are all the bands that we grew up with that were against this? That
Yes.
even like heavy metal bands, a lot of them I'm hearing are not as progressive as they made themselves out to be. Um,
Mm.
and
Metallica.
yeah,
Metallica was another band to me that I was even younger than when I started getting into punk. I was like 11 or 12. And again, I thought James Hetfield was, and I think Lars may have written some, but I thought most of the lyrics were James Hetfield. And I think old Metallica lyrics are brilliant, brilliant. And they're so, like, he was a great writer. After the Black Album, probably selling out, made themselves more commercial, dumbed themselves down, I feel, my opinion. So that's disheartening, because a lot of things in especially on Justice for All is a lot of the
mhm,
stuff that we're going through right now, like things that he talked about on that album.
yeah, like we have major bands out that talk about some amazing things, like let's say Papa Roach. Papa Roach is a
Mm.
great example. They're a huge band, huge band. They are better than ever too. And last year they just put out an amazing song about suicide awareness and suicide
Oh my
support.
God.
And almost all of the money, I went to the concert where they premiered the song in Arkansas, or on the tour that they were premiering it with Shinedown.
Mm.
And like it was Shinedown and then it was Papa Roach. And it was freaking amazing. And all of that money and support was going to people who needed it and for good things. But where are they now? Like where are all the big people who have money,
That's my
who have
question.
the power? Like these bands, they might not be as wealthy as some of them may say they are, but some of these bands are really wealthy and have the finances that could push back and help us in ways and
Hmm.
make things like, say, a permanent channel on Twitch or something like that, where it would be resistance music playing all the time, almost like a
Oh,
new MTV, but of
such a
just
great
resistance
idea.
music. No, I'm floating that idea out there for a reason, because
Yeah.
I'm trying to start a banner and backbone Twitch, and add it into our stream list. And I think it would be really cool just to have bands do studio recordings of like friends bands and local bands and resistance music, and just have it live or have it stream their studio recordings on Twitch for hours and hours and hours on end, and just give them free airtime, or airtime, so that they can get their name out, their music out, and make make a name for themselves. So if you have any band friends who might be interested
Oh
in
my
putting
God.
together resistance music for uh, a possible stream service, please reach out. Same in the audience. Like,
Yeah.
the idea of getting music out is one of the reasons I mean, my platform started by writing poetry.
Hmm.
Like, that's how I
I
got
like
in.
your poetry.
Thank you.
It's like one of
Um,
my bright spots of the day. Get
I
it in the
appreciate that.
email.
I don't always put it out every day anymore.
Yeah.
With a lot of the
You.
shows and a lot of things
Hmm.
going on, so it's harder to do both all the time. But I'm glad you enjoy it, and that's
Yeah.
my sort of touch from my musicality is the poetry I get to write for all of this. But like, creativity in the arts is what gets us through things and
Hmm.
helps us remain peaceful
Yep.
or remain nonviolent for as long as we can, and helps show resistance on a larger scale. So it sounds like you would, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Would you be interested in learn in like that type of thing? And do you think
Oh,
that might be
yes.
helpful for people?
I think it would be very helpful. And are you talking about also like not necessarily writing new music, but also sharing music that is resistance music?
Um, if it's permissioned and we can get the
Ah,
license to it,
okay,
because that's
got it.
really expensive to do or can
Yes.
be.
Yes,
Um,
I would be totally into it. I haven't written lyrics in a little while, but I would definitely talk to my musician friends and see if we could come up with something. And I because that's pretty much all I ever wrote when I was writing original music was resistance music.
because resistant, there's like we've said, there's not a lot of real resistance music, and there has
Mhm.
been some. I remember some during the election. There was the Irish singer who came out on TikTok, and he had an incredible like rustic voice. And there's a lot of folk artists who
Yeah,
continually
that's
put
cool.
out stuff, but folk doesn't get a lot of attention. Um,
I love Ani DeFranco. She's
yeah, like,
amazing. Yeah.
I was always a huge Dispatch fan,
Mhm.
and their music is fairly political as well. And like, but why aren't they putting out new
I know.
songs?
I know.
So here, my call, I guess, is if citizens want to have their bands or have bands or want to put their bands back together and write new resistance music, let me know. Like, I'd love to get resistance music out there and give the opportunity for bands to showcase themselves in some way. Because one of the cool things too about Substack Lives is if you do it through the app on the phone, one of the audio, if you hit the audio button, it actually has a second setting for wideband audio meant for live studio recordings
Oh,
for
I did not
music.
know that.
Yeah, and I found that out the
Wow.
other day when I was looking at it. Is it has a secondary audio feature where it's meant for wideband audio for studio recordings, so that you could put it up on a wall and live stream your band playing music. Like,
Oh my
nobody does
god.
it. Nobody does it. Somebody should please do that. Go ahead, Lisa. Steal that idea and run with it.
That's
As
amazing.
as
Yeah,
long
I
as you're
have to
willing to work with Banner and Backbone possibly on it,
Oh, yes. I would
I'd be
love
glad
it.
to do that.
Yeah.
Like,
That sounds
I want
amazing.
because I know folks like Melissa Corrigan. Her sons have a band, a rock band that would be amazing to be able to showcase their type of music too. Like, they write resistance music. If you haven't met Centered America yet, Sherrod, he's one of their
Yes. Center
directors. He
He's
does
great.
music. He writes music as or plays in a band as well,
Oh my god,
or
that's
has
great.
played in a band. So there's a large music audience.
Oh my
So
god,
yeah,
I love this. I did not
I
know
guess
that.
I'm inviting you on the fly to help if you want. Uh,
Yes, I do. I would love it.
discuss further some building ideas around this, because like, Twitch is meant for long streaming. Substack is also meant for long live streaming. Like, we've
Hmm.
proven that with Banner and Backbone. We did some really long segments, and we streamed for hours and hours on end. Like, we're not, I think we're underutilizing the capabilities of the platforms we're on so far. What do you think about that? Like,
I
expanding our
agree with you.
capabilities.
Yes. See,
into
because that's the
different
thing.
ways too.
Yeah, because what I've been doing, at least at this point, I'm like putting all my eggs in the Substack basket right now because I
Mhm.
just started concentrating on that. But there is absolutely a need to expand onto other platforms. And Twitch, I'm not familiar with very much. I kind of know about it. I know that a lot of gamers use it,
It's
but
mostly a gaming platform,
yes. But how
but
you
they
said
don't
though,
restrict. There is no restriction against other content. It's just primarily used by people who live stream video games.
right. And it's longer form, like you said.
Mhm,
So it could go on and you could have that playing all day, right? Like it would
mhm.
just be like a continuous, like how you said, like MTV.
Yeah,
Oh, I think that's such a
yeah.
great idea. So then, of course, they're pre-recorded videos, and you will put them like in a stream, like
Or live
connect them
recordings
together,
too, like
or live
live
recordings.
studio, because you could have it on, like, switch from
Wow.
one part of a broadcast to another, from pre-recorded to, okay, the band is now set up in their live studio and
Oh,
they want to do a couple live, like a quick live show for you, and we switch over broadcast from broadcast A to broadcast B, and now you're watching live version. um,
wow. That
I'm playing
sounds like
around with these ideas,
yeah,
and I'm hoping. I'm not a network producer yet, but there's a
right.
lot of like network production that I'm trying to build right now in this way. Um, so I think, like, having more support and people who are really interested in doing it, um, it would be amazing.
Oh my God,
So I'm
I'm
so glad
interested.
I've had you on today. Um,
Me too. I have one person in mind that I could talk to right now, but we would probably have to put together uh, a rhythm section. So yeah, he's a guitarist.
mhm. Yeah, and I'm trying to follow along with the chat as we do this to everyone in Substack that's with us. Apologies for not following along too closely, y'all. Um,
I wish I could
is
screenshot these comments.
Yeah, I wish Substack would just save them for
I know,
us.
right?
It's part of it, but that's can't
Yeah,
have most things, I guess.
I know.
Um, so, but yeah, I love the fact that we've been able to open up this discussion around this, because I think it's really needed. Like, we need platforms that are fun, in places where people can have joy and
Yeah,
see and show that the projection that's going on of power is really just that, and we're actually still out here pushing forward. And I
yes,
think people need some hope. Um, so yeah, I definitely want to continue a conversation with you offline, around
absolutely.
a music
I love
platform.
this
This is
because
cool.
it's still very relevant and
Mhm.
still very civically minded because, like you
Yeah.
said, it's resistance music. So, but at the same time, I mean, we love the expression through the arts. So, and it sounds like our audience. There's many people in our audience, in your audience, which I love, that that's the case. And then finding out Senator America, he also has a music background. This is amazing. I love
Hmm.
this.
Yeah, and we can give the exposure that we've always wanted. Like,
Yes,
my
yes,
wife told me to go make friends a while ago, and so I'm making friends,
yeah.
just over the internet, with people that I'm now meeting, and never thought I would get introduced to, or never would have been introduced to
Correct.
otherwise. Um, and that's the power of what Substack is offering us so far. So I think
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, we're reaching just at the top of the hour. I want to give you here a moment to let everybody know where they can find you,
Yes.
um, and how they can support your work, and the work that you do. And I'm hoping this shows up. I did not look at the screen before, so I don't know which QR code is last up here. Okay, perfect. It's from my show. Is Lisa? I'm gonna
Yes.
put up your QR code.
Oh,
Can you
thank you.
tell? Can you tell people how they can support your work, what your work is, what you do, and um,
Yes.
any closing thoughts you might have on today?
Okay. So, as you could see on my publication, I named it "We Are the Third Estate," and we talked about this. Well, Rick and I talked about this, and I also have an essay you could find on my publication where I compared what happened during the French Revolution, because that is really, really gets me going, that whole situation that happened. So just very briefly, the third estate was the division in like social classes, and the third estate were the ones at the bottom. So that represents like 90% of the population. And at the time in medieval France, the clergy and the monarchy was the first and the second estate. The clergy was on top of the monarchy because they were even stronger. But what really is relevant to me is what happened leading up to the French Revolution, where the third estate gained prominence because they were like, hey, man, we're most of the population here and we need to have a voice. So the third estate was a pamphlet that started to be disseminated into the public, and that is where the French resistance started to form. And I think of platforms like this, like Substack, as like that pamphlet. I mean, they had it was like snail mail, like back then, but we have the digital version. So that's how I think of it as. So the third estate is all of us. And I even put white collar people into that. Like, it's not only blue collar working class people, it's anyone under, the elite top 10%. And we have more in common with each other than we realize, because what they keep trying to do is subdivide us so we could keep fighting each other and not direct our ire at them, which is where it belongs. So we have this misplaced anger at each other and at things that aren't really the issue. So that's my main focus on my platform, and those are the types of things that I want to start writing about. I already have, like I was talking about, the one that I'm working on right now that'll probably either be published this afternoon or tomorrow, about the erosion of civics, my experience with being awakened to my political ideology through music as a teenager and growing up. And then also, I'm going to write a piece on Orwell, who is like George Orwell, which is one of my heroes because that man was an absolute genius. And so that will be coming up soon as well. And then also my ties to fascist Italy, because of how I grew up and the history and how it parallels to now and what we could learn from it, because you made a great point of how many people are more far removed at this stage from the people that actually went through it years ago, decades ago. They went through having to fight for freedom and keep fascism, or to break fascism. So yes. And then Rick and I also have a show, and that's Rick Herbst, and he is Adverse Action Daily is his publication, and he writes an article pretty much every single day. He's definitely very current events and news and headlines, and he goes through all of that. Our show touches on that, and we do that every day. It's 6:30 Central, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and we also talk about different topics of civics and we also try to keep it, I don't want to say, because we're not into like hopium for hopium's sake, but we also want to keep it to where we could come up with solutions for things, like kind of, like we were talking about No Kings yesterday, and then Rick went through very valid things about, if you're going to a protest tomorrow, like how you could protect yourself and all of these things. Very, very important because of the craziness going on right now with surveillance and whatnot. So, so in a nutshell, that's me.
I love it. I think that's awesome. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Giving all that great info for us too, and telling us where we can find you and support you and Rick, because supporting both of you helps, because the more you guys can both build up, the more that show keeps growing.
Exactly.
And I love what you guys do. It's fun to watch. And thank you for having me last week.
Yes, I hope we could do more.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime that you want, I'm happy to try and come back. And I'll give one more QR code here real quick. Is everyone come support my work too, folks. I know most of y'all who are here are my subscribers already. Free and paid subscribers are really appreciated. I'm running a 50% off sale until the end of the day, Saturday. Flash sale to get past 150 paid subscribers. So please come support me on Substack on our way to 200. paid subscribers, and we're almost at 5,000 free subscribers. So please come join us on the Sick of This Shit publications as we continue to grow and rocket forward and build new shows. And I look forward to having some more conversations with you, Lisa. I will definitely be inviting you back. This was a lot of fun, and I love getting to talk about music and different things and what's going on. And to everyone in the audience, thank you so much for joining on a Friday afternoon for an unexpected Sick of This Show or a special Sick of This Show. And I think we answered the question of, are we the third estate? I think we are.
Yes, we are.
And with
And it's time to rise.
And it's time to rise. And funny you say rise. Is a slogan I put together for Rise is restoring integrity, service, and ethics in the American ethos.
I love that.
And I think we need to do that. And that starts tomorrow, or continues, not starts, continues tomorrow as we build on this movement. And No Kings is a huge one. So go out. And as I always say, friends, this is the time to be able to do it, is stop being sick of this shit and start doing this shit. So go out to No Kings, go protest peacefully, patriotically, take back the American flag, take back your patriotism, and join us next week. Lisa, thank you so much. I look forward to talking again.
Thank you, Nick.
Hold on.
And thank you to everyone who tuned in. And if you, thank you very much. If anyone has subscribed, I look forward to talking with you and hearing about what you think about my upcoming essays and shows.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm trying to look into the chat.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Before we go, someone said, please check the chat. I don't know.
Rick does like a screenshot of it, but I don't know exactly how he does it. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, you can actually just copy it and
okay.
Like scroll all the way back to the top. So I'm going to copy
Got
it.
it.
I want to make sure that we can look back and see if there's anything. There was a little bit of spamming from some people, or at least one person. Please, let's stop spamming about Trump. We know he's a pedophile. We all hate him.
Yeah.
But there's better things we can talk about. Yes, Preston Cole Johnson. We know, you've said it like 50 times that he's gross. We get it. You don't have to keep spamming with dude. Please don't. Like, what the rest of us have a great show. Okay.
I just saw actually Morgan made a comment as I was scrolling. I'm still a Soul Train kid. That made me smile. Remember the Soul Train?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
I'm a little young for Soul Train.
Yeah, but I'm sure you know about it. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, what memories.
Mm-hmm. So, but with that, everyone, please have a safe but patriotic weekend. Go out and be proud of your patriotism. Go show yourself. Make your voices heard. Show that we are growing and sustaining this movement.
That's right.
And Lisa, again, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nick.
And we'll see y'all again. So, as like I say at the end of every show, and I'll finish it out this way, is let's stop being sick of this shit. Let's start doing this shit. Thanks, y'all.
Bye, everyone.